You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Well, congratulations on the rundown. You said like South Denver, you started getting snow and then got really bad over the pass.
Yeah, obviously Monument Hill is always a challenge, but
good job though.
I will say this, except for the people who crossed into my lane, crossing two white lines, everybody was just behaving well, which was nice.
Good. See, it's every once in a while we all come together.
Unlike the woman, I know because I saw her get back on. She parked her Lyft scooter in the middle of the handicap ramp, going up to a coffee shop. And I
just put that on the sidewalk, lady.
No, couldn't you? Like there were other places to park that you had to put it right in the middle of the ramp.
Wants to be a jerk.
Yep.
And maybe the family was killed by a handicapped person, and they're vindictive. You don't know. So we'll get to a few of these questions. We got a yellow light runner who's racking up some tickets. What's he in for? I have a feeling I know the answer. I'm not a lawyer myself, but I hang out with one once a month, so pretty good stuff. And you said we are cool to talk about the case of the farting coworker.
If there is one four-letter F word I don't like to say, it is that. That is my four-letter F word. I don't say that. I don't say the F word.
What do you say? Toot?
I'll say toot.
Toot? Really?
I'll say toot.
Like if you were in a case, like you were in court, Your Honor, my client does not toot.
He doesn't pass gas. He's not flatulent.
Oh, all right. Wow, I just got lawyered there.
I can listen. Listen. If we're going to talk about people farting at work, I will talk about it
because we need to help some people out.
Yeah, I know.
First of all, let's get to this one because, like I said, I think I know the answer. We're going to call him Citizen X because I don't want your real name on the air. I don't want to be a part of this whole arrest thing. When Summer's talking about you in the news, Mr. X, in just a few days probably. So, Mr. X hates red light cameras. Sometimes I run on the yellow and the camera still snaps me. I also feel like the yellow light cycles have gotten shorter. That's kind of interesting to see, like, average yellow light times on intersections that have these cameras and the ones that don't, if there's a different time there. That's interesting. Anyway, when I receive the $75 bill in the mail, I just trash it. It's my understanding I'm not legally liable until a peace officer issues me a citation in person. So is Mr. X, who's on the phone right now, is he correct? Or is he facing some legal trouble for wow, 5? You've really thrown away 5 tickets?
When did you start throwing these away? Or, sorry, when did you start getting these?
Are you there, Mr. X?
Probably about a year ago.
Ooh.
First one a year ago. So in the last year, he's trashed 5 of these quote-unquote tickets. So, is he facing legal trouble?
Listen, I think in my understanding, and this is kind of a matter of first impression for me because I don't deal with a lot of people who get red light camera tickets. And so there are criminal attorneys who deal with traffic laws who might be better able to answer this. But I think about 2 years ago, we passed a law in Colorado that made it easier for the enforcement of these tickets so they can mail it to you now. I don't know that you have to be served in person.
Much like a parking ticket. A parking ticket, you're not there personally to receive the ticket. They have no idea if you drove the car and illegally parked it, yet they can cite you. And because it's registered to you, the ticket goes to you. And if you don't pay those, you get arrested. I remember as a kid one time, my dad went to the local police department to pay some tickets. And I want to say it was probably Albuquerque. They wanted to book him and arrest him right there.
For unpaid parking tickets.
Yeah, for unpaid parking tickets. He wanted him not having to do that, but at first they were like, we need to book you first. And he's like, wait, no, well, some of these are a little old. So
plus, he killed that guy in Reno just to watch him die.
And he wasn't from America, and it looks like that's okay now. So, what do you think? Yes or no? I think he's going to be liable, and you could be in some trouble, Mr. X.
There is a process now for them to send you the notice, and then for you to be able to ask for a hearing or to challenge that. And then there's a kind of an entire system that follows that. There's a system of things that you need to do to follow through to make sure that you're not getting penalty assessments on top of those penalties too. I don't advise you to just trash those. I think that they need to be paid. But again, you have defenses to those too. It's not as if you can't just argue, well, maybe they didn't give the proper notice that they were going to be using one of those cameras. I think that's part of it.
What do these tickets look like? Is there a picture of your face on the picture from the camera, or do you even get the camera picture?
On like 2 of them, I got the picture. The other ones, I didn't.
Okay. And then those ones
They
you have
have
the
your
pictures. Can you
license
tell it's you?
Not really, no.
I was wondering what the clarity on something like that would be,
Well, are you the registered owner of the vehicle, though?
Much like a parking
Correct,
ticket.
Yeah. So that's it's really going to be down to you. I mean, if you're letting your wife drive and she runs the red light, it could still be up to you to.
What about, are you getting nervous? Like you might get pulled over and this could really haunt you then.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Should I just go and try to pay them and get arrested right there after I pay them?
Like my dad almost did?
Well, I don't think you're going to get arrested for this. I could be wrong. Again, this is Mr. X. I feel that I am not doing you a very good service because I've never dealt with this, and so as I understand it, the law that was passed, I say 2 years ago, in 2023, does provide for an enforcement mechanism for them, and it gives even more meat to the ticket that is mailed to you.
Right. And I think the thing they got out of the loophole originally was, you can't prove it's me, and that way you couldn't take points from someone's license. But they've removed that. This is just a fine, much like a parking assessment.
It's why Elton John was always wearing the Donald Duck costume, just because he was.
I heard a whole other reason, but I can't talk about it.
Hey, we're not talking about farting at work right now, all right?
Oh, Mr. X, I don't know. I would pay him, I think.
Yeah, well, goodness gracious, yes, pay these tickets. I mean, or request a hearing to argue them. But again, the deadline to request the hearing might have passed on some of these. That's the thing. If you just toss them, you lose your ability to just. There's a time mechanism built into this to give you an opportunity to have due process to challenge, because it's not just like this unilateral police state that we have here. I mean, we do have systems in place to make sure that if a ticket is issued, you have the right to defend that ticket, to appeal the ticket. And I'm not talking like going to the U.S. Supreme Court appeal. I'm talking about just like appealing the fact that it happened. You don't think it was fair. You have some defenses to it. I'm not saying, but if you throw them away and then you go past that deadline, you start losing some of those rights.
Okay, that does help.
Well, thanks for saying that. You make me feel better. I don't know if I've made you feel that much better, Mr. X.
You just get a rush.
You're giving me some advice and some guidance, and I really had nothing coming here, so that helps a lot.
Okay. Well, listen. Yeah, I mean, because these are the automated vehicle identification systems, these AVIS systems. So you can just kind of do a little research as well on these to better understand it. But
It feels like another way to get hassled down by the man.
Everyone wants a piece, dude. We're just like we're a little piece of meat, and the world's just full of piranha.
But if a police officer were there and saw somebody run a red light, would we be saying it's another way to? I don't know. I mean, I think some of these things.
I want someone to test Mr. X's theory about the yellow lights cycle being faster on those lights that have those cameras. I would love to see.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone there. I feel like I've read a few people, talk about that.
I've never heard about that before, but when I read your thing, I was like, that actually makes sense because, obviously, a shorter time. Because sometimes, I mean, I roll 115, so I'm sure the lights are a little bit different due to the speed on that stretch of road, but the yellow light is a long light. Yeah,
when it turns yellow, it's like an invitation to just kind of take your time getting through. That's a joke. I do not mean that. Yellow means slow down and prepare to stop.
No, as a kid, was like green means go, red means stop, yellow means go fast.
I grew up in that era too, Ross.
That's cool.
Ross spent half his childhood playing doctor, and then misunderstood the red and green lights.
All right, you scofflaw, be careful out there, okay?
I will, buddy. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the advice.
No problem, don't wear a mask. It's not going to help you.
I did see like a video of like these almost like stocking masks. So they're really thin. And one was a Walter White mask. And this guy put it on and it looked like it was Walter White, Bryan Cranston. You couldn't tell and I've seen a couple of those things where they're just like really thin, like I said, stocking type material. When you put it over your face, it changed right then. You put a hoodie over it, you can't even tell. It's really creepy. Dude, it's a scary world. Weird. It's a scary world.
Here we are worried about AI. Listen.
That's what's more terrible. You got kids. I don't have anything invested in this thing. I'm all right. I'm terrified for the future.
My grandma used to say that. She would say, She said,
smart lady.
Well, I used to push back on her. She'd say, I can't believe the world you guys are in right now. It's compared to what I grew up with. I said, geez, Grandma, you went through a world war and all of these other things weren't exactly rosy in the 40s.
I went through, 9 million Jews murdered and all the death and stuff, but you guys are so terrible.
With the internet and the...
That's what it's all perspective, my friend.
Oh, it is.
Got a couple juicy ones we're going to get to in the next segment. One involving a lady whose ex was dating an advocate who worked at a domestic violence organization that she went to for help. And then this lady told information to the guy. And
we got to dive.
That's a deep dive. And then, obviously, the farting coworker story from, I think it was Citizen Rob who shot this to us on text a few weeks ago. He's got a coworker that's always crop dusting but never admitting to it. And he's like, HR won't let him move to a different partner because it's not a reason to move to a different partner. But I was like, man, that would be a horrible existence, having to sit in a car with that guy for 8-9 hours a day. And everything, what was that? Nothing. I don't know what you said. I didn't hear anything. So that and more. I think this one's going to be easy, too, to conclude this segment. We got Kayla. Part of my back fence broke. The post broke off. The fence blew over. The rear neighbor is not taking any calls, and code enforcement and police say they won't do anything. So I'm unable to properly fix my fence since the post is on her side of the property line. Honestly, it's just a post. It's 3 brackets since the panels can be reused. So what can I do? And is there any way to make her pay half the cost of the fence rebuild? So, I mean, she'd like to just fix the fence, but it's on the lady's property. Obviously, you can't just go over there and start digging holes. You think this is one of those things that you could just work out neighborly, right?
But you always try to do that. My piece of advice I try to give everybody is to try to work out these issues.
Especially when it comes to neighbors. You want friends and family in the neighborhood.
You do. And listen, that stuff comes back. And I mean that in a positive way. You do good things for your neighbors, and there are going to be times where you're going to need them to help you out. So what I want to understand here, and is there a way to get this caller on the line? Well, it's probably not able to do that now. Was the fence just deep enough into this other person's property that it's really not a boundary fence, too? Because we have we have like these good neighbor rules in Colorado, fencing rules that now I think of them historically dealing with just agricultural and grazing lands, where you have this. What the law basically says is if there is a fence that straddles the boundary line, if it is a boundary fence, then both neighbors have an obligation to share the cost of construction or maintenance of the fence. And if you get to a point where you've asked your neighbor to do their share and they don't, you're allowed to repair it yourself and then essentially send them a bill for their share of it, not for the whole thing, but for their share of it. If this is a residential area, and she said that the police came, and so that implies that we're in city limits. Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
Yeah, because there's no code enforcement.
There's no code enforcement on this. I'm guessing, there's no HOA then involved. You look at the law as this ladder system where you've got your very local rules, and for residential issues, oftentimes that's the HOA, and then you're dealing with city municipal codes, and then state, and then federal regulations. So you start with the HOA. Is there an HOA? Do they have requirements? There's an entire process of going through the HOA system to try to get something like that rectified. Let's assume that there's no HOA there. So the question is this fence on a boundary? Would the boundary rules apply to this? She said that the posts are in the neighbor's yard.
So, yeah, and she said, I'm unable to properly fix my fence since the post is on her side of the property line.
Okay, well, if we're talking 10 feet in, that's a totally different story. But if we're talking just a few inches in, and the post is there to help effectuate a true boundary fence, then I think, my suggestion would be, can you fix it yourself very easily? Like, you said it's just a matter of a few brackets. What would it cost? I mean, this is clearly a nuisance for you. So right. Short of trying to, mobilize an entire legal army here to try to fix this or get law enforcement, which they've clearly said they're not going to get involved in this.
Not our problem, ma'am.
So what you do is maybe try to fix it yourself.
Hey, get the stuff you need. Go to the neighbor, knock on the door, say, hey, I need to fix the fence out there. Is that cool if I do that? And then say, hey, by the way, this is $50. Anyway, you can kind of help me on something.
Help me out on this.
Then leave it there. And if they say no, just go, all right, well, keep that in mind next time. Yeah. Next time when you see their house on fire, don't call anyone. Just say, all right, well, you could have paid for this fence, and I could have said, hey, your house is on fire, but I'm not.
If it's 2 p.m. and you see somebody kind of lurking in the backyard, you know what? Let them lurk.
Right? Scream out their security code. 4359. That'll get you in the garage.
That's right. They're going to be away until Tuesday.
Just be a good neighbor.
They're on vacay. Ross, here's the thing, and I'll say this. The cost to involve a lawyer in something like this is going to be
way more than
greater.
3 posts.
Bingo. And it is unfortunate. It's disappointing that neighbors can't work together on this. You've got a neighbor that won't cooperate and help you. You may just have to do a little bit of it yourself to just try to get it done, and then just see what you can do with the neighbor. Say, hey, listen, maybe you're not in a really good position right now to do this, whether it's financially or physically. Can I shoulder this just so we can get this done? Because I know you don't want those panels in your yard either. I would try that.
That's where you go. And anyone who's dealing with neighbor problems, it starts with a conversation, a polite conversation. Maybe some cookies, too. Hey, here's a cookie. Hey, want to fix the fence?
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Oh, I showed my kids Three Amigos this weekend. That movie.
How'd they love it?
Oh, they loved it.
Dude.
It's a classic.
Talk about great 3 actors getting together on that one, right?
Oh, it was amazing. My mom had suggested maybe we could watch White Lotus with my daughter. And I said, geez, no way. Have you seen White Lotus?
No.
Okay.
I know what it's about.
It is an R-rated show.
Not a kids movie. It's not the Three Amigos, by the way.
Three Amigos is fantastic.
Man, and I'll tell you this on a sidebar before we get back into the serious stuff here. I got a chance to see Steve Martin and Martin Short on their tour a few years ago when it rolled through the Pikes Peak Center. Oh, my God. It was the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Is it just a comedy, comedy show with those two guys?
Comedy show, and they're just so sharp, despite being, up there in age, so sharp, so funny, and so ahead of everyone else. I've seen pretty much every comedian you can imagine, and it was other level. They were stars.
That's
what I mean?
amazing.
It was really an eye-opener for sure.
Fantastic.
So if you ever have a chance, Martin Short, Steve Martin's tour, unbelievable. All right, let's see here. We got a few more to conquer. One's so long, and it does involve what you guys do there at McDivitt, a personal injury. Did you?
Yeah, but it touches briefly. And the real issue is whether or not I think this guy, and I don't know who the guy is, can take his property, take his house, turn off, seize the house because they had unpaid water bill. Am I getting? Is this the one you're thinking
just the
of?
one that goes crazy. It all starts with a head-on collision for a drunk driver on the wrong side of the interstate. And then after that, surgeries, and then found out his home was condemned. And
it's heartbreaking. And if
it's like 4 pages long.
And if you're listening, if you're the one who wrote that in, let me tell you, I feel for you.
Josh and Shelby.
Okay, Josh and Shelby. I feel for you on that one. I'm not quite sure where to go to help you with that because it sounds like you've got a number of issues, everything from them, and I don't know who they are, taking your dad's tools and letting you stay in the house, take care of pets for 15 minutes a day. And it just wasn't 100% clear. And sometimes it's hard to give advice, especially legal advice.
It's just so
if
wide.
If the issue isn't clear.
It's a Mississippi River of questions.
Listen,
it's deep.
I'll tell you what, that's what law school is. When you sit for the bar exam, that's what they do. They give you a fact pattern that's kind of like that. I mean, where it's just like, okay, now you have a certain amount of time to crunch and tell us every issue you can spot from this.
Wow.
So this was like a bar exam question, but it's probably not one that it's probably not healthy to get into on the radio for them.
All right, understand. So, well, I just figured lengthy. I mean, it would take the whole segment for me to read the email verbatim. So let's move into a couple other things. One, we didn't have on the official agenda, but I just wanted your quick take on the Starbucks scalded crotch story. You heard about that, I'm sure, being a lawyer.
I did.
If you missed it, a guy was handed one of those 4-packs, those cardboard 4-packs with drink holders. One was a very hot tea, and they didn't push it all the way down in there. So when they handed this thing over, fell over, scalded the guy so much where he had a bunch of grafts, and then the jury in California gave him $51 million, I think, and Starbucks is going to appeal. Will he get that kind of money after an appeal?
It depends. So awards that juries can give are sometimes limited by statute in whatever state it is. For example, in Colorado, we have certain rules.
So they cap it out?
They cap it out. So they have something called compensatory and then punitive. Oftentimes a jury might award a certain amount of money in compensatory, to actually compensate the person, that particular plaintiff, for their injuries, whether it's for medical bills, pain and suffering, all the harms and losses that they have suffered because of the other person's negligence. Then what a jury may also do is award punitive damages as well, which is punitive. It is designed to punish the defendant. So one award is designed to compensatory, the plaintiff. The other is designed to punish, punitive, the defendant. But they oftentimes kind of lump it together, and they'll say we'll award X amount in compensatory and this amount in punitive, but that money goes all to the plaintiff. What happens in it's state by state is they'll cap or limit how much the jury could award in punitive damages, for example. Sometimes during appeals, the compensatory damage is allowed to stand, but the punitive is reduced. So we'll see what happens with an appeal. And this is, very reminiscent, I'll tell you. And we all go to the McDonald's
started the whole thing years and years ago.
By the way, yes, obviously I'm a plaintiff's attorney, but I've researched that McDonald's case ad nauseum and the hot coffee component to it, and it's become a cultural thing where we just kind of, people roll their eyes, oh, it's like McDonald's and the hot coffee. There was so much damage to that person because of that hot. It was fiendishly negligent for them to have had it that way. Now, with the Starbucks, I'm not as familiar with those details to know whether or not that this is the kind of award that is likely to stand. But again, when they appeal the judgment, they're appealing on a few different things. Number one, they may say that the punitive award, they could find some grounds like that it was particularly excessive and violative of some statute, or that it was not even the purview of the jury to look at certain things. But oftentimes in an appeal, they're looking at errors in the court system too. So they have something to hopefully go back and maybe start all over again or get something thrown out. So we'll see what happens.
Led to the question around the office, would you scald your crotch for $50 million? I said yes. So your hands up. Dave says yes as well, because then you have $50 million. If you had serious damage down there, you get a robot one.
No, listen, I kind of joke, but I mean, I don't want to listen. This is like those games that we played in high school and junior high.
He's regretting his yes answer, everyone.
And my son, he's 10. He's always asking me, he's like, Dad, would you rather be this and happy or that and sad?
I love those kind of games.
And I'm like, well, usually the happy. Would you rather have $1 and be happy or $1 million and be sad? I was like, well, I don't know how long would I be sad? So, who doesn't want $1 million?
That's funny. And then another side question, don't take too much time, but man, if I was on that jury, could I sue someone for having to see pictures of that guy's scalded groin? I don't sign up for that. It's like, you're not paying me anything. You put me in front of these pictures? Oh, that'd be a nightmare, I think. You should get $50 million just for having to see that thing, probably. I would imagine it's a nightmare scenario.
I watched White Lotus and nobody paid me. No, listen, exactly. I'm there. It's the pain and suffering as a juror.
Yeah, because, you get dragged out of your life for X amount of days.
Yeah.
Then you got to see that on top of it. That's an insult to injury.
Yeah,
all right, let's take care of a couple more here. One on the serious tip, and then we'll have some fun with the goofy fart story. So this is from Nikki, and this is a crazy one. So her ex was dating an advocate who worked at a domestic violence organization, and that's where she went for help regarding him and my ex-husband before him. And he and this advocate actually stole her file and then used the contents against her in the pre and the custody battle. The organization knew that this breach took place, and they let the advocate resign about a year ago, but never told me. I figured it out on my own, and then they admitted to it. On top of all this, I had a protection order against my ex at the time this happened. That's even worse. So what can I do legally? I'm at a loss. Final orders. They're over, and his ex was given 50-50 custody of their daughter, which is just scary. How they can take that file and then use it in the actual court. How?
Okay, so I'm trying to piece this together, and it sounds like she had something with her original ex, and a file was created. Her newer ex had access to that information because of his relationship with the woman who worked at this organization, the advocacy organization. It sounds like he was able to use the information he gathered from access to that
in sinister ways.
In a way to try to, during the PRE, which is a parental responsibility evaluation, it is something that...
Oh, the PRE, so those not pre. I called it pre, so it's
the PRE.
Custody battle.
So when you go through a custody dispute, two parents trying to decide who's going to have, how they're going to allocate custody between the two parents. Oftentimes, it's not every time, oftentimes a PRE will be requested and a court will order an evaluation where an independent person comes in and they do a very exhaustive examination of both parents and both living situations to determine what is going to be in the best interest of the child or children. to determine what should it be 50-50. Because in Colorado, there is this kind of equitable component. Well, it's almost like an equal component, really, which the courts tend to just prefer to give 50-50 custody. They kind of want to default that way. But a PRE can tip the scale one way or the other. So you either do it by agreement, like, okay, I'm going to get 60 and you're going to get 40, or you get the PRE, because the judge doesn't want to make a unilateral decision without an expert giving that judge.
So he has no idea.
Report. Yeah, the judge doesn't know. I mean, the judge is there to just kind of weigh the merits and apply the law to the situation and approve things or request additional information. So the PRE is done, and the evaluator then has access to interviews, and they may, depending on the age of the child, they'll interview the child, or they'll evaluate the child. They'll do home visits. They'll do a number of different things. From what this person is writing, Nikki's writing, it sounds like somehow her newer ex was able to use some information in a way that perhaps manipulated the evaluator. I'm not sure. And this is why this is important, because final orders were entered. She now has, post that order, new information that wasn't available to her, and certainly not available to the judge, and maybe not available to the evaluator. But with that information, the fact that X had access to that, is that going to move the needle from an independent evaluator's perspective? We just don't know what it was that this guy was he...
What information he gathered?
Right. Because, I mean, here's the unfortunate thing. If there was information in that file that would indicate that she's not a good mother, or it wouldn't be in the best interest of the child to be with her more than 50% of the time, well, then is the evaluator doing the right thing? And we talked about the fruit of the poisonous tree, where from a government, like the police, if they do an unlawful search, then information they get from that search really can't be used to prosecute somebody. They call that the fruit of the poisonous tree. But does that same doctrine apply in a PRE context, where if the evaluator has access to information that was kind of unlawfully accessed, and not by the evaluator, but by the person providing it to the evaluator, does that somehow skew the integrity of the evaluation itself? And it may, and the judge may decide they want to have a second evaluation done. The fact that there was a restraining order in place may or not really have anything to do with that component, because a restraining order typically prevents somebody from harassing, intimidating, obviously approaching, if there are requirements to that effect, the protected person. In this instance, she's not indicating that he did anything to violate, maybe on the face of it, except that he used this information to somehow intimidate her indirectly through the PRE, or harass her indirectly through the PRE. There are just a whole bunch of different things at play here.
As cloudy as that is, then, What about her suing the domestic violence organization that allowed her files to be taken?
Okay, so that's
more achievable?
That is another issue.
The kid could come home with a nice trampoline and a pool in the backyard that was 50 times.
So you have to look at what are the damages for that. We have to get into that. But yes, there may be a claim there. I don't exactly know exactly how the breach took place. Or did they have all of the safeguards in place to prevent the breach from happening? What is
so even that's not exactly.
It's not crystal clear, but she does have, I think, things to think about whether she wants to make those claims, and perhaps go back to the court, petition the court to reevaluate. Because typically, once a PRE takes place and the court enters orders, it could be a couple of years before you really have a chance to go back in front of the judge, unless there's new information that was just not available. Like the court should have been aware of this, but the court didn't know because of maybe there was some fraud on the part of the ex. There are just 1,000 different issues.
It's always one of those things. It looks like a slam dunk, and then you get into this and you realize exactly how difficult the law is to navigate. And a great point is why you need a lawyer to help you out. All right, we only got about 4 minutes left. Let's get to the question of the day.
I hate that.
Ready? Wait for it. Wait till it hits.
Sing it.
We will rock you.
Oh, I know what this is.
This is the original Freddie Mercury version.
Yeah, before Brian May got in and really
Brian's like, I like that. What you doing over there? He's like, I'm just farting. He's like, hey, let me put a riff on there.
Hello.
And the rest is history.
That's a cheeky riff there, mate.
Citizen Rob works with another guy who passes horrible gas because he's a crop duster, because he's like, he doesn't admit to it, nor does he even acknowledge it, which is so funny because it's him and the other guy. It's like, you smell something? Nope. Did you hear that? Nope. So he never admits to it. Go to HR, and they say flatulence is not a serious enough offense for them to move him to a different coworker. Does Rob have any rights? Or is the farting guy covered because it's a medical issue, maybe? I was thinking with the HIPAA laws and stuff like that. You can't talk about a guy's farts.
Okay, so we're
toots, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're not.
It's flatulent.
As I've established, if you're just coming into the show late, we talked about this earlier.
He doesn't like the F word.
I don't like the F word. The 4-letter F word I cannot stand, and that is fart. I don't even want to say it. But if you've got people who are farting at work, you've got somebody farting to the left and farting to the right, and the smell of them farting is driving you nuts, what are you going to do?
Sounds like a Monty Python song when you say it like that.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's one thing if they're farting in the bathroom.
Yeah, right.
But when they're doing it in the cubicle next to you, I mean,
that's a
and you
hostile
go
work
to HR. Well, it could be. So here's the thing. The person may have a medical condition. And if the person who is passing gas, tooting, who has flatulence, and listen, I understand that tooting is equally, like, it's childish. But I used to say it in front of my kids when they were little. I can get away with it because I'm like, oh, it's kind of cute, and they're kind of cute, and I don't want to say the F word because I don't like saying the F word.
Toot's adorable.
I don't say the F word in front of my kids.
I've never seen a grown man say toot before till today, but a toot is adorable.
Well, there you go. I got to come up with a better word for it. Whispering in the wind. Whispering out your rear. Oh, gosh. So if the person has an actual medical condition that's causing this, well, then they have some protections. And so the employer couldn't just dismiss them for that. They have to make reasonable accommodations. Now, on the flip side, the person who's offended by it, and rightfully so, because if this is really foul smelling and it's constant and it's like this chronic farting that's taking place at work, then, obviously it's offensive and it's a nuisance. It's a whole bunch of different things. So I think the employer really has some thinking about what they want to do because they might end up losing somebody. They might lose the guy who's offended by the F wording. They have to be careful that they don't unilaterally dismiss the person who's doing it or move them if it's
right, because they could fall into the HIPAA stuff.
Well, and again, it's not.
No, like it was goofy fun when he first said it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, there's a lot of different angles on this. Like we mentioned earlier, so there's no easy answers with any of these things.
No, there isn't. And when you think about OSHA, like, is it an unsafe working environment for? Is it Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, so does Rob's condition of being offended by it fall under OSHA because it's unsafe? And I don't think so. I don't think there's.
Is there any studies that say what exposure to flatulence can cause?
I think, as I understand it, they've said that farting doesn't rise to the level of an unsafe working condition under OSHA. But again, normally I'd say go to HR and explain what's happening.
I got a tooth tumor.
Now, some people have a sensitive olfactory gland, though, too. I mean, so that's the thing. The other thing is Rob may actually have a medical condition here that makes him particularly sensitive to those smells. And you see it with people where they are sensitive to particular soaps that sense in the bathroom. Yeah, it could be.
Ooh.
So do they need to somehow reasonably accommodate him? So, again, this is one of those tricky situations, and I feel bad for Rob. But I also feel bad for the guy who's, at work, because I'm sure he doesn't want to be.
Unless he's that guy. There's some people that just very much enjoy making things unpleasant for people.
That's disgusting.
I know. But unfortunately, I know.
Who does that?
I don't know what makes them tick.
I often... this is where the whole, sometimes people just baffle me.
I always say the worst thing about this planet is all the people.
Yeah.
This would be a great place without all the people.
What's that? Never mind. There's so many movies, but that's the theme.
It is. Oh, my man.
Ross, thank you.
We're at the end once again, Mr. McDivitt. That was awesome.
It was good to see you again. I know you missed me.
Dude, we kept that one guy, Mr. X, out of jail at least. He's going to pay his fines probably. Because it was just a matter of time before he got a hard pullover. But then I also wonder, too, because you drive around this town, how many times you see more expired plates than actual active plates in this town, and they are never getting pulled over. I remember when I was a young man, it's like, man, tinted windows that weren't too dark, I pull over all the time.
All the time.
For that. License plate, forget to put the sticker on, pulled over all the time. And then issued didn't have my right insurance card. I had insurance, but didn't have the card. So then I go to court and prove I had insurance at the time. And now they don't pull people over for any of that stuff. I think it's just too dangerous. You don't know who's behind the wheel anymore.
You were a right juvenile offender.
I was.
Well,
damn proud of it, too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was once on Crime Stoppers. That was all I need to do is get a milk carton. And
were you really on Crime Stoppers?
No.
I wish I knew somebody famous. I guess I don't.
You keep pushing me, and I might be.
Push your buttons.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.